I'm Andrew, the owner of Seattle Felix, and you are watching Inside the Rosita League.
Hey, how's it going, man? Happy Tuesday to you.
Hey, happy Tuesday.
What's up, cuz?
Oh, hey.
Congratulations.
Let's go.
Congratulations on 3-0, man.
Oh, thanks.
So what do you think you're doing different this time around, Andrew? What's your the way you talk, the way you text, it's like you're on a different level. Not that you weren't on any level previous years, but you're on a different level even more than some of the current players right now, I would say.
I mean, I kind of feel like I don't know if it doesn't feel like I'm doing anything different necessarily. I mean, I know you and I kind of like usually always text back and forth, especially during fantasy. Um, but I do feel like part of it was kind of feels like luck a little bit because
Sure. Hmm.
I actually didn't like I actually auto drafted um a good portion of like the original team, right? And I know for like a lot of owners, I mean, the teams aren't like exactly what they were when we were first started, right?
hmm
So um but
Did you go into it with pre-selection of what you want each round to look like, or was it just a straight auto draft?
well, fair point. So actually it was kind of a hybrid. The first few picks I actually did kind of go in there and um try to grab a few key people. So I mean Pollard was on there, for sure. And then um Amon Ra for sure was another one that I was trying to get on a certain round, right? Because I was like number 12 or 13, right? But then the rest of them, yeah, I did kind of set um, for certain positions to be drafted um, each round, which I kind of messed up a little bit. I think looking back at it, it was something I'll have to figure out for next year for sure. But so I guess it was a hybrid, kind of that.
Gotcha. So you were kind of targeting Pollard in the late first round. That's kind of who you wanted. Had a good feeling about him.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There were certain key people who I was trying to go for,
Well,
But I think
yeah,
for many of us, right, you're forced to have to like rely on maybe like your RB2s that you weren't looking at, or RB3s even. I guess just as the injuries start stacking,
hmm
which there's a lot of them, right? So,
Yeah, you have your RB2 Edwards questionable.
hmm
Yeah, didn't have a big week, but you have a good backup Q or running back at least.
yeah,
And then Mike
definitely.
Williams. Sorry to hear about Mike Williams. I
Oh, I know, right?
think that's a season ender for him.
I think so. I
He
think
was the
he's.
ACL.
Yep. Yep. I think
so,
they put him on the injured reserve, right? Hoping that he'll maybe be ready for next year. But yeah, I think this year it's yeah. But yeah, it was there's been so many of those, right? The so far, like this season, like Chubb, right? And
hmm
who else was one of the big ones?
I mean, Aaron Rodgers and was
Aaron
it
Rodgers, yeah.
who was it? There was a running back the first week also where tore his Achilles. Yeah.
That was mine on the week one, the Baltimore did
Was it
J.K.
Dobbins?
Dobbins, yeah, right?
Dobbins. hmm
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
now that you're top of the West currently with a two-game lead over the second place teams in the West, which other teams in both the West and the East are you looking out for in terms of like a huge challenge once you face them?
I mean, I I mean I think that's it's interesting that you say that because I mean obviously you kind of have your top hitters like I mean well Chris and Bonnie, right, they kind of like blew up, and whether or not that was a like a fluke game as we use that term like already, I mean I don't know, but like they
They
certainly
should be
did
two
kind of.
and one. I mean,
Yeah,
they lost by one in a heartbreaking loss the previous week. They should. I'm going to
yeah,
actually treat them like a 2-1 team going forward.
you're exactly. So that's potential. And then obviously Chuck, right? I mean his team, right? I mean they um they have quite a bit of points up there. I mean they've been winning by quite a few points for the East Side, right?
Yes.
They have the first, they were over 150, I want to say weeks 1 and weeks 2. And this was their first week where they were vulnerable, I think. And that was still only like it was still 123.
Exactly. So by volume, I know they're up there and not right behind, but not too far either. And I think they're also 3-0 would be Mike, right?
Yes.
Yep. He is also
So
3 now, barely behind on points.
yeah, yeah. So those are like the by the numbers currently, right? Like the obvious ones that stand out, but like I mean everybody's getting injuries, right? Too. So I think
Yes.
things can quickly change for any team. And
We
like
got the week
I
five
think I'm
bye
playing.
weeks coming up. Yeah, it's things will change definitely very soon.
Yeah. And like I'm playing I'm supposed to be going up against Omar this weekend. I mean he very well may like put a stop to my winning streak potentially. So like it's it'll be really interesting for sure because like he like by the numbers I think they're projecting a slight margin above me by I forget what it was, I don't remember, but also like I has like if some of the players that I have continue their trends too, it could it can be pretty overwhelming too because I mean I had to throw Laporta up there on flex for reasons, and then Amon Ra still up there, and so I don't know, we'll see. It'd be
Yeah, you've
interesting for
got a lot
sure.
of depth there. You'd have to have an off week. I mean, Omar, they are looking good. Omar and Jake,
Yeah.
100 every week. I think since
Mm-hmm.
week 2, they've been 120 at least. But I think you've got the potential to keep up that 140 to 160 range pretty consistently.
Yeah, I mean, either way, I think it should be fun. Should definitely be a good week.
What
Um,
what would you say you've learned the most about yourself through fantasy football? I know it's just a game, but is there any one aspect that you can take with you into real life?
I mean, that's like you got deep.
We like to get deep on Tuesdays here.
I know, right,
It's
man?
a
I'm gonna
night for
think twice
reflection.
about joining next time. No, uh, no. I mean that's a fair question. I mean, without getting, I mean, sounding too cheesy, it, it's kind of one of these things because like I think I'm probably one of like the newer people, right, out of most who are doing this. I guess one thing is just always, I guess, always just looking for ways to self improve, right? Because I think every year you kind of like do something one way and you kind of like learn to it's like always like, oh well, maybe I'll like look at this set of data on players this way as a way to make decisions. And so I think it's just like self improvement, right? So it's just always trying to do a little bit better, learn a little bit more from mistakes.
Just one week you have it all figured out, but you got to be able to figure it out the next week and the week after that. If you get stuck in a rut, you got to be able to be a little flexible there.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Well,
Very nice.
Andrew, here's to Seattle Felix, and congratulations on this amazing start.
Yeah,
Thank you.
great
Thank you.
work, guys. Excited for you.
All right.
Yeah, you as well. You all as well. Thanks for having me on your show.
Of course, our first guest. Thanks for being here, Andrew.
Oh my, okay, I'm walking away with the honor. All right.
Well, that was one great interview with Andrew for sure.
Yeah, he's really got a lot to say. You can really tell he's zoned in this year. Like we're dealing with a different Andrew.
All right, we'll get started with our match by match recap. And let's go ahead and start with mine. It was a tough loss to KBA, but it was also probably their greatest win in their regular season history in the Rosita League.
Yeah,
172 points.
it was very impressive by them there.
Total
Yeah.
gold rush.
Total gold rush. Yeah. I mean, they didn't need it this week, but it's just kind of nice for them establish themselves. 172, get up into second
Yeah.
place there because everyone's 1 and 2 in the West. So at least
Yes.
they have that total points for tiebreaker after week 3.
Well, we'll go over some of the big hitters on her team. The biggest one was Raheem Mostert.
Yeah.
For the Dolphins. Of course, the Miami Dolphins had that fluky game of 70 points, and that's probably not going to happen again in another 50 years.
Yeah, what did they say? It's the highest since like the 60s or something like that.
Something like that. It's been 5 decades,
Yeah.
and it'll be another 5 before we see that again. And it was just ridiculous, but fun fantasy-wise for sure.
What happened to the Denver no-fly zone?
Oh, there's so much to discuss in just that game, one game alone.
Yeah.
But for on my end, Uncle Dwayne, he dropped TL Trevor Lawrence earlier in the week. I picked him up as the number 3 waiver priority, and again he underperformed. I had to bring him in because of Anthony Richardson
Going through concussion protocol there.
Yes,
Kind of a 1 week fill-in for you, I think.
but now it's a question of am I going to put him in Rosita League exile like Uncle Dwayne did?
Yeah.
It's tempting to do that.
It was surprising. I mean, he's rostered in a lot of leagues, but I don't really blame him for that drop.
Well,
Like, yeah.
he's ranked top 10 every week, but he's definitely not playing like that. But I'm just wondering if I'm wasting a roster spot. But we'll see. Tonight I'm going to possibly make a few moves, possibly not, depending on what happens.
16 is a decent floor. Like if you're looking at Trevor Lawrence in terms of, like they got their butts kicked. Not a great game for them.
It's a decent floor, but I won't be able to mop the floor with anything with that. That's for sure. But congratulations to KBA.
Yeah, they're 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers. Just it's consistent all across the board. 45 from the flex doesn't hurt either, but her core 4 looking good.
And they should be 2-1 by now. I'm going to treat them like a 2-1 team because they should have won last week if it wasn't for that crazy Monday night comeback.
Yeah, Sada Steely's got them by 1. They lost 129-130 in week 1, 110, which for our league, 110 in week 1 would have beat a lot of teams, but they had Mike that week, and then they that close one last week. So they were due for one for sure.
Definitely. Let's move on to Team Mara versus Nabs.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, Nabs started out 0-2 to start the year, but he was able to shake it off and defeat Team Mara in a resounding fashion, 133-98.
Yep. He avoided getting into a must-win situation.
Definitely. And Kirk Cousins came through for him, 36 fantasy points.
Yeah.
Amari Cooper, wide receiver, 29 fantasy points, made him safe and sound for sure for the week.
Safe and sound. Was that a Taylor Swift reference?
Oh, I'm not sure. I don't really know any of her songs, to be quite honest. So
Yeah, because I know Mahomes said he had to get Kelsey the ball because Taylor Swift was watching him. So he got his Taylor
Oh,
Swift touchdown.
Wow. Yeah. I don't really. Yeah. Yeah. I wasn't really following any of that, but yeah, I noticed that a lot of the highlights were switching over to the Taylor Swift booth or whatever that was.
Yep.
Seems kind of
Belichick said Kelsey has a lot of good catches in his career, but she's the best one yet.
of all people, Bill Belichick said that.
Yeah, I thought I was surprised when he had something to say about it. But I guess he's a Taylor Swift fan because he had seen her play at Gillette and it was raining, so that gave her some street cred in his mind.
Oh man. Well, Nabs has leapfrogged a few teams, and he's doing well in the West all of a sudden, and he's tied with all the other 1 and 2 teams now. So good for you,
Yeah,
Nabs.
he put up a good performance and he had three people on the bench, two wide receivers and a running back that had 18 points. So he's also pretty deep.
And now Seattle Felix,
Mm-hmm.
150 over 117 over the grind. Another
Yep.
resounding win for him. It was good to talk to him earlier. And on the other side of the grind, kind of struggling because their number one running back, Brees Hall, is in a treacherous stretch for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Only 2 fantasy points. And the previous week he had 0.
Yep. And he wasn't injured, no injury reports or anything.
A lot of
Just
questions there.
a lot of questions. I mean, everyone's saying Jets O line, and they
And
lost Rodgers.
yeah, I see Eckler is on their bench. So that hasn't quite worked out for Rach and June, picking Eckler over McCaffrey in round 1, so far at least.
Ooh, it was Eckler over McCaffrey. Yeah, I think they were trying to bring him back after the week 5 bye week. So maybe they'll get him back around 6, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
but when he was playing, he looked good. We only saw him for 1 week, but
having said that, the grind, they're still tied record-wise for second place in the West. So they're still in a good spot, I would say.
yeah, and they put up a good performance. Other opponents they'll get the win against there. So with their running back situation how it is, they're still looking pretty good.
Well, I think it's time to talk about your match.
Ooh,
The
great.
middle child, 137 over 82.
Ah, you love to see it.
Brock
I was
Purdy
hoping to hit
is.
130 this week.
Oh, yeah.
A couple of
There
bad
you go.
performances. I was like, I have potential. I need to hit 130.
Well,
I didn't think I'd do it with Derrick Henry scoring 2, but Keenan Allen took care of that for me.
well, your quarterback, Purdy, seems untouchable with 29 fantasy points.
He's looking good. He was kind of my backup. I was like, if I pick Aaron Rodgers, I have to get like kind of a flyer backup quarterback. So that's where Purdy came in and got a little lucky on that one. Hopefully he can keep it going.
And not to be outdone, 51 points for wide receiver Keenan Allen, playing fearless at this point
Mm-hmm.
this season.
He threw a touchdown to Andrew's wide receiver, Mike Williams. That was his only touchdown, 251, and didn't even catch a touchdown.
You're also one of the lowest fantasy scorers in the league so far, and yet you're 2-1. You kind of getting away with a few things at this point, but you'll take the 2-1, I'm sure.
I'll take the 2-1. On that note, I mean, it was a close one with D money. A lot of people won with less than 103, which I got my first win with. And then I think the low is just my bad week 1, which I got a loss for. Scored 74. So I mean, a loss is a loss. I could have scored 120 and still lost or whatever. So I'm not going to think too much. Still early in terms of total points.
For sure.
Yeah, I got my loss.
You have the most important stat, which is 2-1 anyway. So you're in
2-1. There we go.
Moving on to Chuck and CJ. Big win over State of Steelies. Chuck and CJ proving once again that 2 is better than 1. It's just a tremendous performance, 3-0. start the season.
Yeah, this was
Tua,
their worst week yet,
quarterback.
and
Yeah,
they're still 123 winning by 11.
just top to bottom, a force. Now, they were beatable depending on who they would have faced, but
Hmm.
I mean, 123 would have been enough to tie Omar and Lisa, which we'll get to in a little bit. Omar, Drake, and Lisa.
Yeah, yeah, and they have two QB1s really between Herbert and Tua in Miami. Like they've got a pretty strong quarterback lineup.
For sure. That's depth top to bottom.
Hmm.
On
Yep.
Tanny's side, I guess to Tanny we can say soon you'll get better. This is a tough start, 1-2, but
Yep.
in the East, well, he'll be okay, I think.
Yeah, he'll be fine. He only has, oh yeah, he has a little bit more points than me. But yeah, I mean, he
So
has
with
one
AJ Dillon with
AJ
three
Dillon.
fantasy points. That's probably one of the bigger reasons why he wasn't able to take to get this win. Devontae Parker with 3 points.
Yep. And
Probably
yeah,
should have
you
had
see
this win.
that.
Yeah.
And I don't think he has any other running backs. Like his two running backs, and you'll see that on a lot of teams. I mean, we were talking about it, running back shortage. He's already pretty short in that department, and then we got bye weeks coming up. So we'll see how everybody handles that.
It'll be a wild week once we get there for sure.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of wild, how about that comeback last night by Lisa to tie Omar and Jake, 123 to 123.
Blessed be the tie that binds our hearts in Christian love, the fellowship of kindred minds is like to that above.
Yeah. Didn't see that coming. But Brown's looking good on the Eagles.
I would say so.
Yep. And she's got Deshaun Watson doing well. Yeah, I mean, her and Omar fall into those not having struggling with running back depth
Yes.
teams, but they got enough out of their tight ends and wide receivers there to make it a good match either way.
When all is said and done, I think both can be relieved that they at least got a tie out of this one because this one could have swung either way.
Mm-hmm. And then if I lose next week and one of them wins, then they have that tie over my loss. So it could come into play with the rankings down the season. Getting
Yeah.
a tie is better than a loss, even though some people might say otherwise.
Well, now here's another thing. The mere fact that neither of them were able to get to 2 wins means that there is a I don't want to say a void in that tier, but this actually opens it slightly for the West teams that are eventually going to be looking to get a wild card because
Hmm.
it's I mean that's just one less of a hurdle, even though it's just one tie instead of an Omar, Jake, or Lisa win. So this will definitely have ramifications way down the road.
Yep. If one of them went 2-1, then we're pretty much looking at East wild cards.
Yep.
Yep. I see what you mean. Yeah, that was good for all those 1 and 2 West teams for sure.
Well, I'm looking forward to more tie games this year, and
You love the tie
they are
games.
yes. I like seeing people sweat when it comes down to the end of it, and the torture that
Mhm.
goes along with that leads up to the tie games for both teams.
Yep. When you just see it and then the projections are what you have and it's all over, man. Monday night too. Makes Mondays a little more exciting.
That's what it's all about, man. All
Yes.
right. Well, DC Universe falls to 0-3 with another powerful win by Mike, who seems
Yeah.
untouchable at this point.
Yeah, Mike's been going off. I mean, 30 points out of the Buffaloes defense, 11 out of the kicker. He won by 23, and he was ahead by 23 with just the defense and kicker alone.
128 points for DC. Not too shabby.
No. Yeah,
But
DC, I think, is just getting, I mean, I know we said it's still early, still early. He is in a must-win situation now, but I think he has a good shot at it. He's been scoring well. He's total points wise, I mean, you said he was like ninth overall.
yes, if my calculations were correct earlier, ninth overall in terms of total points scored. So he probably should have a better record. I think it'll even out. I think that once he faces everyone else, the cream will rise to the top, or at least rise a little bit.
Yeah, and he's got Thielen, who's starting to look good. He had 36 this week, but he also had a big game last week. So if he starts flexing Thielen with a high ceiling wide receiver flex, hoping he can get to 1-3 next week. Except for I think it's against Nabil, who also seems to be heating up. So that'll be a good one to watch.
A lot of good stuff to watch and look out for sure, especially between those two teams.
Yeah.
Now, if I were to pick the DC comic character that best exemplifies DC Universe at this point, Aquaman. He's kind of in deep water right now. But Aquaman can get out of that jam too. So
he can.
We'll see what DC comic character we can place on DC Universe next week.
Yep. I'm excited to see what happens.
Okay, now time for final takeaways. Any come to mind at the moment?
Well, since we were just talking about D-Money, I was going to go back to takeaway. It's still early, but especially for him. I mean, he's scoring well. It's just when you happen to run up against other teams early on that are scoring well, you're going to come out 0-3. But especially in the West, other than Andrew, everybody's 1-2. So I don't think he's as bad off as it may seem.
And on my end, and I'm kind of talking out loud here. This is not something that I thought of before we started recording, but with the amount of 1-2 teams that we're seeing, it's become kind of bottom heavy at this point. And so with that, with the fact that it's bottom heavy and you're looking down the road, usually a 7-7 team in a 14-team league in the Rosita League will possibly get you into playoffs. Possibly you need a tiebreaker in TPF to get in with a 7-7 record.
Mm-hmm.
It's possible there's a whole bunch of 1-2, kind of that they stay in the lower end and kind of bottom off. We're in unprecedented territory with the amount of attrition that we're seeing in the league right now. And right now, it's just not a even bell curve. Let's just put it that way. There's just a bunch of 1-2 teams right now, and it'll be interesting to see if that evens out over the next few months.
Mm-hmm. Just kind of see if anybody rises to the top or if it's just a nail biter the whole season.
Yeah. Which means that even though the 1-2 teams are okay, they may want to do what they can to get a little bit of separation starting now.
Mm-hmm.
Running, I mean, we only have a 14 game regular season, and we're already in week 4. I mean, time flies at this point.
It does. And you get into bye weeks, and every win counts at this point. Every point counts. As Omar and Lisa know.
Yes.
Yeah.
Anything else on your end?
No, just I said I think it was last week, it might be time to hit the waivers. I think this week it's time for people to start trading. A lot of injuries, a lot of running back poor teams. It'd be interesting to see how that shakes out because I had a quick look and Nabil has a lot of running backs, but he doesn't need anybody. So not only do you need someone who has running backs to spare, you need someone who needs something that you have. So I'll be interested to see how the trades work out.
Definitely. During the draft, I made a point saying that, well, it'll be cool to see a few good trades happen in our league this season. And then Omar said, well, how do you incentivize that? And I think we're seeing the incentive now. Running backs are in need, and some teams have them, some teams don't. Yeah, it's just a matter of do you pull the trigger at this point of the season.